friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Okay, hello and welcome back to Culture Bucket. This is our 17th episode, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Episode 17. Thank you for joining us again. I am with my co-host, as always, Alex.
So it's me. Hi, George. Hi, everyone.
How are you this week, Alex?
I'm very good, thank you very much. How are you, George?
I'm good.
That was a long pause.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it over in my mind. I think I'm good overall. As good as we can be. Oh my God, what's that? Somebody else is here on the Skype call. What's happening? We have a guest today because we're doing top 5 video games, so we've had to fly in a substitute for Alex, who loves video games but doesn't have a list of video games. So we are joined by the effervescent, wonderful, marvellous, incredible, all the way from the land down under, Dan. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hello, Culture Buckets. I'm good.
Hi, Dan.
Dan,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we needed you.
Dan is mine and Alex's good friend from when we all lived together in Japan, having adventures there. Pretty good times.
Yeah, and now we live in 3 different places.
Yeah, now we live in 3 different places on 2 different continents.
Yes.
So, Dan, how do you feel?
Feel good. I hope I can do your show justice. I'm excited to talk about 5 of my favourite video games, non-Nintendo, right? It was a hard list to put together. I spent about a month putting it together. I was very slow. Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, and to keep Alex involved, she has done some very dutiful homework and watched some YouTube videos of these games so that she can have an informed viewpoint and join in our discussion. Is that right, Alex?
Yes, I have. I've watched videos.
So don't spoil it. But how was that experience of watching videos about games you haven't played?
Interesting. Yeah, I think I spent an afternoon watching videos, and yeah, it was interesting. I'll talk about it later.
It must have been a bit weird, like describing some of these games. It's like, oh, this game's incredible, and the story takes you here, but it's set in this really weird place, and it's so hard for like a trailer or a 20-minute video to describe 150 hours of playing a game. So hopefully the notes helped.
Yeah, there's at least 2 games on here that I've spent over 200 hours playing, I think. So
some video. That's insane. I admire you guys for putting so much effort in this, because I will tell you my thoughts later about it, because it's a world that is completely away from my world. It's crazy. But there are videos on YouTube that are 4 hours long.
Yeah.
I started watching
even.
one of them, and then I didn't realize it was 4 hours long. I was like, when is this video going to finish? You have another 3 hours, 45 minutes. No, thank you. Bye-bye.
I tried watching a video on YouTube the other day that was explaining the plot of Twin Peaks, and it was 4.5 hours long.
Did you watch it? Oh.
No, I watched an hour of it, and I was like, I think I understand his point. I turned it off. But it seems very good. Okay, shall we get into our first feature of the day, Culture Catch-Up Time?
Yes, please.
This is Culture Catch-Up Time. This is where we talk about what we've watched, what we've read, what we've listened to, and probably some other stuff. Culture Catch-Up Time.
So, this week, remember a couple of weeks ago, I watched a series called Insecure, an HBO
I
series
do
called
remember.
Insecure, and I told you
With
that
Issa Rae.
it's the Ray series Insecure, and the music curator or there's a word consultant is Solange Knowles.
Yes.
Yeah. So I went on Spotify and I found the playlist for Insecure, and I picked out, and I'm gonna maybe every week I'm gonna talk about one because it's of one artist, because I think it's a really the series has got a really, really amazing soundtrack. So the one artist I'm going to talk about today is an artist called Sir, Sir. Do you
Okay.
know him?
No, I know Sia and I know her, but I don't know Sir.
I hope you say Sir, because I'm reading it the British way.
Sir?
Sir? Sir?
Sir? Sir?
S-I-R?
I fell over, sir.
Oh, dick.
Sir, he pushed me, sir.
Yeah. And listen to this. So he's a singer-songwriter from Inglewood, California. And
Classic.
I think he's like, he's an R&B, soul kind of guy. Very good. And he's also the younger brother of this artist called D Smoke. Do you know D Smoke?
No.
Ah, so a while ago there was this show which was called Rhythm and Flow.
That rings a bell.
Yeah,
Yes.
so Rhythm and Flow was this kind of I'm sorry, I say Netflix like my father. Netflix series where Chance the Rapper, T.I. and Cardi B were trying to find the next hip hop artist, and he was one of the contestants. I'm not going to say.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really good show. I would recommend to watch it. And I'm not going to say in which position this smoke arrived, but yeah, watch the show. But yes, Sir is the younger brother of D Smoke, which is another artist that I really enjoy. And the album I listened to is an album that was released last year called Chasing Summer. And
Lovely stuff.
yeah, it's a really good album. And the first song starts with a song called Hair Down, which features Kendrick Lamar. Ooh.
And I feel like I've heard of that song.
Yes. It's very different from Kendrick Lamar's style, but he fits really well into the song. It's and the album, I found the album really good, and it's kind of it's a story about his women experience in LA, and it's I read a few reviews, and Pitchfork is the worst reviewer ever. We keep talking about that, but they're so mean, aren't they? They're really
they're
mean.
really harsh.
Oh, it's a pompous, samey, blah blah, and it's not that. It's maybe the album is a bit samey, but I think it's a really, really good album, and it's a really good listen. So I would definitely recommend this album because it's just a good R&B album. I'm not really into R&B that much, but I really like this album. So I think it's good. So my first entry of Insecure, because I think the soundtrack is really good. Then the next artist is a completely different genre, and it's an artist called Jade Bird. Have you heard of her?
Now, I have heard of Jade Bird.
Yes. She's a English singer-songwriter. I listened to her album, which is called Jade Bird. Her genre is like Americana, indie, folk, rock, country. Beautiful.
Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
As a Brit.
Yeah, and this is her debut album, Jade Bird, and it's a really, really good album. I really enjoyed it. She's I didn't realize she was English. It's got a very Americana kind of sound to it, and she feels much older than she is. But then you listen to the lyrics, and it's kind of her very personal to kind of break up and the way she talked about it, which I read a little bit about it, and it was kind of her how she feels now, her lyrics, and how she kind of wants to evolve in a way. So even if now maybe the lyrics are a little bit childish, then she's gonna evolve into something else, and which they're not childish at all. I think they're really good. But it's really really good, and it feels really personal. So I really like it, and her voice is amazing, and she's a really really good storyteller, and you kind of feel how she feels. Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Well,
like.
you say that, Alex, but let me read you this.
Oh, don't tell me it's from Pitchfork.
Some of these big numbers, however, rely on cheesy tropes that lack a degree of empathy. On Good at It, a twangy appeal to a cheating lover, Bird wryly pits herself against a goddess of a rival, but she never quite reaches the desperation of Jolene or the venomous rage of Before He Cheats, instead lingering in an ambiguous middle ground. Not my words, Alex, the words of pitchfork.com.
Who writes for Pitchfork? They eat hate every day.
Must be how they get viewed.
They must just have like
It definitely is how they get views, though.
They must just like have a bowl of nails with like with petrol and just eat it every morning and then write reviews, because I think this album is really 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 good, and for somebody that is this young, I think she manages to write and create some music that is totally hers, and that's the beauty of it, because it's hers. Why does she have to?
Yeah.
Why does she?
But
have
she's not as
to
good as
write-
Dolly Parton,
Yes,
Alex.
but why does she have to write another Jolene?
Yeah, why pitching it?
She, like, Pitchfork, you need to go away.
Yep. Though they did once do a review of a Jet album by just posting a video of a monkey urinating into its own mouth, which was pretty good.
That's amazing. Can you send out a video?
What? Who are these people?
Yeah, I'll find it.
Who are these people? They're horrid.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've talked recently about how much I love Clipping, and they've given bad reviews to every single Clipping album. So I don't particularly follow what they say.
And like the Sir album, I read the review and I was like, that's nothing like the album. Yeah, it might be a little bit repetitive, but it just follows the style that Sir wants to use. No, I don't like them. But yeah, Jade Bird, I like her. I think she's really great. Listen to her because she's got an amazing voice. Yes.
You've sold me on her. I'm going to have a listen for sure. She sounds pretty good.
So this week, Phoebe Bridges and Mumford and Sons released EPs.
Oh, did Mumford and Sons release an EP?
It's a Delta EP.
Yes. Right? Yes. Have you listened to it, Dan?
No, but Kenji messaged me about it. He said his voice breaks many times. Well,
I listened to it because I knew I was going to talk to you, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just a live EP, not bad. You know, it's Mumford and Sons being Mumford and Sons. It's different listening to them live than watching them live. I think they're better to be watched than to be listened to live. But I don't know. You've seen them many times, haven't you, Dan?
Yeah, they're absolutely incredible live. They're like involve the audience so much. Like they run through the audience, and they sound as good as the record. I'm such a fanboy for Mumford and Sons. Like they're just brilliant. Like the last time we saw them, they run through the crowd and just hang out in the crowd for a bit, and then they get back on stage and they interact. Yeah, they're just brilliant. Just such a good band to see live.
But yeah, so I thought they were like that, and maybe in the EP they don't really come across as energetic like that, because I've seen them live, on YouTube. I've never seen them live actually, but but it was good. And then Phoebe Bridges released an EP of her album, but different. And I forgot
yes,
the name.
please.
What's the name, George?
The name of the EP is Copycat Killer, and it's 4 tracks from her second album, Punisher, but redone with strings.
Yes. It was good. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Let's say it's amazing and the best thing ever. And I love it, and I listen to it on repeat all day.
Okay. Well, I listened to it and I thought it was good. I didn't really think that it needed strings, so I wasn't extremely impressed because I think her album was great anyway, and because I wasn't sure if I liked Stranger in the Alps or Punisher better, so I've listened to both of them recently, and they're getting closer because I used to prefer Stranger in the Alps, but now I like Punisher a lot. I don't know. I didn't think it needed strings personally. I still think it's good, but I think the strings just meh. Is
10
that
out
okay?
of 10. Perfect EP.
you just you just love her. That's why.
Yeah. Also, I've listened to those songs so many hundreds of times at this point that to hear new versions of them is a treat. It doesn't matter whether they're strings or not. It's just a nice change of pace to hear something slightly different.
Yeah. Okay. I guess.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's it for my culture catch up this week. Short but sweet.
Okay, cool. So my culture catch up, and then we'll go to Dan. I've only watched one film since we last recorded, and I'm not going to talk about it for too long. But I watched the 2020 Blumhouse film Fantasy Island.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that, Alex?
Yeah,
Have you heard of it, Dan?
No.
haven't seen.
Have you seen
It's
it?
got Michael Pena in it, right?
Yeah, Michael Pena's in it, playing the landlord of an island. That if you go to it, your fantasies come true, and it's based on an old TV show that was done as like a kind of sci-fi drama, kind of Sunday afternoon TV show, as far as I can tell. And then they've redone it as a horror movie where your fantasies are like, oh, careful what you wish for, kind of thing. It's the worst film I've seen all year. Please don't watch it. It's indescribably bad. And that in the way that, like, I spoke to someone who listened to our episode where I talked about The Hunt, and they said they wanted to watch it because I made it sound, entertainingly bad, which might be true of The Hunt. Please don't be tempted to watch Fantasy Island. It is irredeemably terrible with no positive qualities to it at all. It's one of those films that tries to have twists. And as soon as a twist happens, there's one big twist near the end where they reveal who the villain of the film is, essentially. And as soon as they make this reveal, you think back and you're like, well, nothing that character has done makes any sense. Why would they have done any of the things that they have done if they were actually behind everything? It's awful. It's so terrible. It's weird, boring, bad. It's too long. Don't watch Fantasy Island.
Okay.
So that's that.
I thought we were supposed to be a positive podcast.
You pitchforked to that movie, mate. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I have, yeah.
You definitely pitchforked that movie.
Gladly. Oh, it's so bad. It's
Is
so
Michael
bad.
Pena
Oh
bad
my
in it,
god.
or have you said so?
Michael Pena's fine in it. He's not very good in it. Do you know who else is in it? Michael Rooker is in it. Who plays Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy? That guy. He's blue in Guardians of the Galaxy with he's the blue guy in Guardians of the Galaxy. Alex, you know him, right?
Yeah.
He makes a joke about being Mary Poppins. He's in it. And no discredit to him, he's amazing, but he clearly just turned up on set and was like, I'm going to read the lines you give me once to camera, and then I'm going to go home. Everyone is bad in it. No one is. The director must have been asleep. It's just awful. The reason I've only watched one film is because my Buffy rewatch continues with vigor. I'm now into episode 19 of season 3. The mayor's in town. Faith is here. Things are looking bad for Buffy. Willow's learning magic. It's the absolute best. I love it. My character rankings remain how they were last week, so listen to last week's episode if you want to know that. And I'll come back at you later with some rankings of the seasons and other things. What's wrong, Dan?
Episode, and I want to know the ranking.
We'll
Spike.
You'll have to wait.
It's a beauty.
Spike, where's Spike? Spike was 4 or 5, I think.
Angel must have been low, right?
Around 4 or 5. No, Angel's high. I like Angel. Angel's good.
Oh, not Angel.
I think Angel was just above Spike. I think. Yeah, great. Just the absolute best. Okay, I tell you what. I ranked the villains of each season, so I'm going to give you this. Okay,
No.
Number 7.
No.
The first. Yes. Number 7, the first evil from season 7. Rubbish. What were they thinking? Number 6, the master from season 1. They were finding their feet. It wasn't great. Number 5, Adam from season 4. I like season 4 overall, but Adam is not a great villain. Number 4, Glory from season 5. I don't know. People like Glory, but I don't know. That season overall for me isn't brilliant. Number 3, the mayor from season 3. Such a great villain. He's all polite and nice, but then his head splits open and good stuff. Number 2, Angel from season 2, when he loses his soul. I love it. And then number 1, I'll skip a minute or so ahead if you don't want to know who the villain of season 6 is, because it's a bit of a spoiler. But number 1, just like my character ranking, Willow, best villain and best character. Love it. She's just the absolute best. Okay.
Thank you for that.
I've not watched anything other than Buffy and Fantasy Island, so moving on to a bit of music. Alex, have you heard the new Foo Fighters single?
No, I haven't. I saw it, I haven't heard it. Listen.
Yeah, so they premiered it on Saturday Night Live last week or the week before. It's called Shame, Shame, and it's the lead single from their new album, which is called Medicine at Midnight, I think, or Medicine for Midnight. It's out in February next year. It's a weird lead single for the Foo Fighters because it doesn't get very rocky at all. It's just quite mellow. But it's pretty good. And I went from the back of that, I've listened to mostly Foo Fighters for the past 2 weeks, and it's been pretty great. They're such a good band. They're a bit like Arcade Fire. I will over-listen to them and then have to take a break for a while. So, Foo Fighters just have such a set sound. Like, you know, all their albums are really good, but they have like a very specific sound that once you've listened to, 300 Foo Fighters songs in the span of a month or so, it's time for a little break normally.
Okay.
Then, Dan, you must have been pretty excited because last week or the week before, since we last recorded anyway, Australia must have been a festival. I heard that in Australia they have to shut down schools when this band release a new album because all the kids will just take the day off and spend the day listening to it, so they have to have a national holiday. AC/DC released a new album. Must be a big event, right?
Yeah, it was massive, mate. Yeah, it was good. Got the day off.
Did you?
Akadaka.
That's the one.
Is it good?
Akadak.
That's what the locals call it here, Akadaka. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, that's what they're called, right, over there, Akadaka.
It's too long saying AC/DC, so it's just Akadaka.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, seriously, it is.
Akadaka. I think I prefer Akadaka.
Akadaka. Have you ever heard an AC/DC song, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, then you've heard this album.
Like
it's really good. It is actually a really good AC/DC album, but they're not reinventing their sound in any way. But it's pretty solid. Listen to it a few times. Would recommend if you like that kind of thing. Yeah. Good song on it called Through the Mist of Time. That's probably my favourite song on the album. I'd recommend giving it a go. Although I did notice that lyrically, I don't think they spend a lot of time on their lyrics. The main single is called Shot in the Dark, and I think the chorus goes, "A shot in the dark, it's better than a walk in the park." Which is great.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah. And then, boom, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Last Thursday for me, a week ago for you, Dan, the PlayStation 5 was released.
Woo!
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Dan, do you have a PlayStation 5?
I do. And it's amazing.
Yes, I also have a PlayStation 5. Let's have a little bit of an initial impressions review chat about the PlayStation 5. So, Dan, what games have you played on it?
I have played Astro's Playroom.
Oh.
That's what it's called.
Yep.
Spider-Man. I've only played the remastered, not the Miles Morales, because I want to play through that first before I get back to it. I want to replay it.
Right.
Demon Souls, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I think those are the only games I played for it. How about you?
I've played this. I've played the same as you, but substitute. I've not played Spider-Man, but I have played Bugsnax.
Oh yeah. Oh, I played that a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your initial impression of just the console itself?
Just absolutely massive. It's so big. It's like everyone says, "Oh, it's big, it's big," and then you take out the box and you're like, "It's very big." It's so big, but it's.
Have you got it? Have you got it horizontal or vertical?
I've got it horizontal because it just wouldn't fit vertically. I had to put the stuff and stuff. Yeah. How about you?
I tried it horizontally at first, and I've got a space under my TV where a PS4 and an Xbox One had been sat, and I had to take both of them out to put the PS5 in its place, and then I had nowhere to keep the other two, so I've had to take it out of there, put the PS4 and Xbox One back, and now I've got it vertically next to my TV on the stand. I think it looks better vertically. I think it looks weird horizontal.
This is a bizarre conversation.
No, it's a totally normal conversation for two
how do you put it?
fully grown men in their 30s to have.
Horizontal. I put it next to my TV. Where did you put it? Yeah. Okay.
I was going to say it's so big. So many people you see online have had to like use IKEA like nightstands or like separate tables to put it next to their TV because it doesn't fit in the entertainment centre. But I'm not criticising it. It's big because it's amazing. The technology is great and it keeps it cool. And I've played it a lot and I've not had any issues. So yeah,
you haven't had that. Did you hear about the whining noise that some people are suffering from?
No, I haven't heard about that. So I've heard, like the crashing and stuff, but
no, it makes it that some people are suffering from a whining noise, like this really high pitched. And somebody took their PS5 apart and found out that a sticker inside the fan had come loose, and the fan was like hitting the sticker as it rotated. And apparently it's happened to a few people, and that's pretty weird. That's not great. Anyway, what do you think of the UI, the home, the home menu and all of that stuff?
I think it's awesome. I'm not going to lie, when I first got it, I spent about an hour playing with the UI, like the home menu. I was like proper like
really
geeking out. Like, how do I do this? How do I quickly get into a game? Or what settings do I need? Like, is this 4K at 120? Like, what can I get? And I spent a lot of time just looking at the same thing. I think it's good. The last UI for PS4, like when you went into the PlayStation Store, it would take a few minutes to. It wouldn't take a few minutes to load, but it wouldn't be as instantaneous as now. But it's just instant now. It's built in. I think it's awesome, man. It's a bit confusing, like when you press the home button or like the PlayStation button on the.
That's
PS4,
what I don't like. I don't like that.
It would take you back to the dashboard, right? But now it doesn't. It brings up a quick.
Now it brings up a little menu at the bottom, and you have to hold it down to go back to the home menu.
Yeah.
And I'd prefer it to be. It was the opposite way around, wasn't it, on the PS4?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. And it's slightly more button presses to turn the console off than it used to be, which irritates me a little bit. Alex is loving this.
There's more.
I'm looking at pictures of their PS5. It doesn't look enormous, but I'm not sure. Like I can't see it next to a person. But it's just interesting.
Well, a picture of an object doesn't look big unless you have like comparison.
Yeah. No, but there's a person. There's a person holding it, and it looks big. Yeah, and buttons.
It's bigger than my Nintendo Switch. I'll tell you that.
Well,
for nothing. I forgot to mention. Hades. Dan, I've been talking about Hades for the last month, I think. I've completed it 15 times now and seen like the final cutscene, and I just want to say it's a masterpiece. 10 out of 10. I absolutely love it. My Switch tells me I've played 45 hours of it. It's great. Anyway, so back to the PlayStation 5. So yeah, I'm not convinced by the user interface. I don't like it very much. I feel like it's a first pass. I feel like it's an initial draft, and it will get updated at some point in the next year and be better. Do you see what I mean?
Is it the button press?
Just because like the button presses when you go into the home menu. No, sorry, when you go into the store, it's very basic. It doesn't have like a discount section, for example. It just sort of lists everything in a big list, and I just feel like it feels like it's not quite finished to me. But I'm sure it'll get there. It's not a big problem. Game time. So let's talk about Astro's Playroom, because it comes free on the console, pre-installed, and it is sold initially as being just a tech demo to show off what the controller can do, and it's pretty impressive as that. I mean, did you do the thing, Dan, where you first start playing it and it makes the controller appear on screen, and that's when it shows you how the triggers work? And it's crazy. It forces you back, and then it kind of lets you go down like this with this little click, and it's genuinely, it's amazing. And then it shows how effective the haptic feedback is, that the vibration can kind of centralize itself in different parts of the controller. So it shows you that by putting all these things inside this controller on screen, and as you move your physical controller, it rattles. Like if you tilt it to the right of it will start rattling, and if you tilt, it's really impressive. It's got a microphone on it and a little touchpad as well.
There's a part in the game where you use the touchpad to zip up a zip, and you can feel in the controller what it feels like for a zip to go up. It's really they really use it well.
Yeah, and there's a bit where so. First of all, it's so much more than a tech demo. I love that. I love this game. It's great, isn't it? Do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it's like you're playing through a library of PlayStation. Like when I first got it, I was like, tech demo. I want to play Demon's Souls and die a lot. But then I was like, actually, this is awesome. Like,
yeah, it's
really,
like
really
it's like a virtual museum to the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So you load into it, and it gives you these 4 areas you can go to, and one is based after the cooling system. Like, it's as if you're inside the PS5. So one is like the cooling system, one is the memory place, one is the SSD where the games are loaded from, and one is the GPU, the graphical processing unit. But what I realised as I started going through one of them is that each one is also based after a console from the history of PlayStation. So I did the cooling section first, and that's all based around the PS3. And you unlock these artifacts, and it's like perfectly rendered models of different accessories from that PlayStation 3 life, if you see what I mean, right? So it's like the PlayStation Move controller and all of this stuff. And it's crazy. It's so cool. And when you finish like I got to the end of that section and realised that the little bit of level I was wandering around in was inside the cross-media bar, which was the user interface for the PS3.
Oh, wow. I never realised that. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you look in the background, you can see the icons and stuff, and it's the same swirly sort of thing, which is cool. And then when you finish an area, it populates this museum section with all the artifacts that you found. It's so cool. Like, beyond just showing you how the controller works, it's a fun game. It's kind of done as a 3D Mario platformer type thing. But with all these little controller things in it. And then the thing I love, Dan, I'm sure you've noticed this, is that as you walk around the area, because you're this little robot, you see other robots all around you.
Yeah,
through the areas.
So
and
good.
they're filming each other, and they're reenacting classic PlayStation games.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The first one I noticed was, because I'd seen them filming each other for ages, and I hadn't clocked onto what they were doing, and then I saw one that was obviously like a Resident Evil thing with them like at a door, and there's a zombie behind the door. And then since then I noticed like an Ape Escape one, an Eco one, the Death Stranding one is hilarious. It's amazing. Had you noticed that they were like little PlayStation game reenactments?
It took me a while. I was like, why is this dude filming with a camera? I don't think I got the first reference, because the PS4 was the first PlayStation I had. And then I was like, that's Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us. And then I want to replay now and go through it and find all these people. And it is like you said, it's like a love letter to PlayStation, but also a library of all of the amazing things they've released. Have you played the CPU level, the green one, like the woodland kind of level? No,
I've done the.
I will. For that is about how CPUs work, and it talks about, you can go to a hidden section. It's got the lyrics, and it talks about like teraflops and stuff like that. It's really funny.
That's brilliant. I love it. No, I've done the cooling springs for the fan, and now I'm doing because I played like 45 minutes of it, and I hadn't realised that it was a PlayStation museum, and I thought it was just like a little, and I was like, oh, this is okay. And then I got up this morning and played another hour of it just before we recorded, and that's when I realised all of this, and I was like, oh my god, This is the best. So now I'm in the one themed after the PlayStation 1. It's like the Memory Meadow with the clouds.
Oh, cool. I've not done that.
It's a good one. Okay, brilliant. So that's Astro's Playroom. We both have Demon's Souls, the remake of the original Demon's Souls, which then became Dark Souls and all of those games. Have you played much of that?
I have. Yeah, I think I've played about 20 hours or something so far, or something ridiculous.
That game is the only one that's currently only available on PS5. It's like the proper graphical kind of showcase for what it can do. It looks amazing.
Oh, it's so.
And you've got a better TV than me, so I think you've probably seen the high HDR lighting and all that stuff better than I have. But from my perspective, it looks crazy good, and it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's
no.
Did you play it before when it came out for PS3?
Yeah, so I didn't play it when it came out for PS3, but I played Dark Souls and then went back and played Demon Souls.
Oh, nice! It is awesome. It is so good, and the remake, like what Blue Point Games did. I never played the first one, like I said, but it sounds like they were so true to the original because, like, fans of Demon Souls and Bloodborne can be quite particular because the games are just so difficult. And they kept in the cadence of like how the character moves and animates and the frames for the attacks, but added all these new animations while keeping with the old one. It's just amazing what they did.
Yeah, it's cool because in the past all the swords would have the same set of animations, but now they've given each sword has its own unique animations, but the timing is the same. Is the difference?
So brutal.
It's cool. Yeah, and I think a lot of the AI that controls the enemies is the same exact code. I think they said they've reused a lot of code and then just built new graphics on top of it to make it, look amazing. Have you defeated the Tower Knight yet?
The guy with the big shield? Yeah, got him.
Yeah.
First time, baby.
First time?
First time,
baby. That took me a few goes. I was rusty.
I just kept running away from the guy. But Alex, these games, right, just to give you some background, George asked me to play Bloodborne, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later on. Maybe we won't, I don't know. And
we'll have to wait and see.
The enemy hits you once and you die, and then you wait for a loading screen, and then you have to backtrack like 2 minutes, and then the enemy hits you again and you die. And the enjoyment for me is getting over that obstacle. And now that the PlayStation has that solid state drive, which takes like nothing to load, it's not as painful because you can die 5 seconds later, you're back in the fight. But yeah, it's hard. It's so hard. Like after that boss, the Tower Knight, the Flame Lurker, whatever he's called, is really hard. And the Man Eater. Remember the dude with the serpent? It's like a bear serpent dude. It's like tails of snake.
Oh, that rings a bell. Yeah, you're definitely further than me. I'm currently in the digging area, the mines. Trying to get through that bit.
Guys with the pickaxes, I hate them. I hate them.
So what else? So have you played much Valhalla yet? Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I've played an embarrassing amount of Valhalla, and it's the same game as Odyssey, just with Vikings. They've done a great job or whatever, but it's an Assassin's Creed game. I don't want to criticize it. It's a fun game, but it's just so beautiful. Like what they do in the environment. But they made the last 2 games. One was in Egypt and one was in Greece, right?
Yeah.
And they get proper historians to go through the game. So you can play the game with a historian commentating of this pyramid was this, or this Greek god believed in this. And they're going to do that with this one for England and the Viking invasion. And it's just like, you can tell they really care about the environment. It's just so beautiful to play. And the exploration is so much fun. Oh, it's brilliant. It's really good. Have you played a lot?
I've played some, but not loads. Because you've had yours about a week longer than me, so I've not had as much time to dig into the games and stuff. But I have a question: how much Norway do I have to go through before I get to England?
Not too much. Not too much.
Okay, good.
You'll be in Norwich anytime soon.
I can't wait. So, Dan, let's move on from the PS5 for now. And is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? Any films, movies, books, music?
Culture catch-up time. Catch-up time. I don't know when you guys last recorded, but to be honest, my mind is so PS5. The only thing I wanted to talk about was I've recently been listening to audiobooks in between your podcasts.
Oh.
So I have a bit of a morning routine where I go for a walk, and I'm on book 7 of the Witcher series, which is called The Tower of the Swallow. Some people might think it's a different book, depending how it's ordered, but it should be book 7, or book 6.
Right.
And it's by Andrei Bugsnax. He's a Polish dude, and his name's very hard to spell. It's got lots of consonants. But it's great. It's the books are really good. I feel like this book's kind of, it's about a witcher basically called Geralt, who his job is to go.
How you say? I love how you said it's about a witcher, as if that was like saying it's about a vampire.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I know,
just a
I know.
known
Yeah,
quantity.
it's like, what the hell is a witcher?
Oh, I could talk about it. So it's about a guy. His name's Geralt, and as a young man,
Yeah.
I think he was an orphan, or he was put aside. It's revealed in the books, and he gets taken in by this school, which is a witcher school. And basically, what they do, they talk to children with these genetic modifications, these potions and stuff, and then if they survive, they become witches. And their job, they're basically a hired mercenary just for killing monsters. And
Ooh.
the book is kind of about him and him finding his humanity and how he's treated. But the themes are just like, so some of the themes are really dark, but the characters are amazing. They're so well written. They're so likable. There's some really, really strong female characters, which are just brilliant. Just makes me smile and want to laugh just thinking about some of the stuff they do. But this seventh book is like, there's a lot of storytelling in it where it's like person A is saying, oh, this is what happened in the book. And then like within that story, another person is telling a story. So it gets a bit exaggerated and a bit long. But no, the books are great. For any fantasy fans, I'd recommend checking them out, either audiobook or reading them. The audiobook is narrated by a guy called Peter Kenny, and he is amazing. He puts on all these different voices. It feels like you're listening to 20 different characters. It's really good. I'd recommend it. But that's
Nice.
pretty much my culture catch up. That PS5 and a bit of It's Always Sunny.
Oh, nice. Good choice. Good shout. Actually, let's move on quickly. But I got Apple TV on my PS5 and watched the first two episodes of Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet, created by Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny. Have you seen any of that, Dan?
No, it sounds great.
It's about it's like a workplace comedy, but set in a video game developer studio who've made an MMO called Mythic Quest.
Oh, I have heard of this.
Yeah, I kind of assumed it wouldn't be very good. I've really enjoyed the first two episodes. It's made me laugh a lot. Really, really funny. And like knows its games pretty well. Although it's quite funny that they've obviously partnered up with Ubisoft, because whenever it shows the game, it shows like footage from a different Ubisoft game, like Assassin's Creed or For Honor. But whenever as part of the plot of the episode, they have to show a very specific thing happening in the game. Like the first episode is about a shovel, and they have to show characters using this shovel. It suddenly looks like a PlayStation 1 game, because they've obviously had to specifically create a little bit for the show, and they haven't had the budget to do it, as it would look in Assassin's Creed or something. And it just suddenly looks really bad. It's quite fun. It's not a criticism of the show, but it's quite funny the way occasionally they'll show a specific thing and it'll look like a totally different like console generation. But no, I'd recommend it. Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet seems really good. Rob McElhenney's very funny in it. You've got Danny Pudi from Community's in it, Alex.
Oh, he's great.
Yep.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
Oh, I miss him.
Ashley Birch is in it, Dan, who plays Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh.
She's in it playing a games tester. It's a cool show. I'd recommend it. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's good. Oh, F. Murray Abraham is in it. Alex, who is in some Wes Anderson movies. He was in the Grand Budapest Hotel. Good times. Good times all around there.
People like fast forward button on George.
So, right. Shall we move to our top five? I'm so excited.
Let's do it.
I am ready, boys.
I don't know if we've mentioned, we should do a quick programming note. We're not doing homework this week because there won't be any homework off the back of this episode. So we will talk about the book homework next episode. So be prepared for that. Although, just to tease Alex, I have read and finished the book she assigned me.
Have you?
I have. But I'm not telling you anything about it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our top 5.
This week we're doing top 5 video games. Dan and I have a list, and Alex is going to contribute as and when it's appropriate, which is exciting.
Can I ask a question before we start?
Yes.
Okay. So in all of most of your choices, there's a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, and whatever.
Yeah.
Does that mean you've played all the games?
No, not necessarily. In fact, not in the case of my number 5, not in the case of my number 4. Yes, in the case of my number 3. Yes, in the case of my number 2.
Okay, so you don't necessarily have to play all games to enjoy a game.
No.
Okay.
So, my number 5 was released in the EU in 2013 for the PlayStation Vita, and that's you're not going to hear people discussing the PlayStation Vita very often.
No.
Although I do own a lime green one that was only available in Japan that I'm pretty proud of. And for years was actually only available on the PlayStation Vita, but has recently been re-released on Steam for PC, which is exciting. More people have an opportunity to play this game. It is the masterpiece, 10 out of 10, perfect, best JRPG ever, Persona 4 Golden. Let me tell you a little history lesson of my life when we moved to Japan. When we first moved to Japan, I was determined not to buy a TV, and I didn't bring any games consoles or anything with me. And then, before we made good friends, me and Alex, and then Dan as well, I kind of didn't have a whole lot to do in the evenings. So I bought a PS Vita, and I bought Persona 4 Golden. And then every single day when I got home from work, I would spend about 3 or 4 hours playing through Persona 4 Golden. So, my initial few months in Japan is very much linked with playing through this perfect video game, and it's just the most wonderful memory. Have you played it, Dan? Do you know anything about it?
I've only played Persona 5. Yeah, I haven't played 4.
I like 5, but I've never finished it. It's never grabbed me enough to get all the way through it, because we're talking hundreds of hours to really commit to a Persona game. They are big games, well over 150 hours for me to get through Persona 4. On my first run. Persona 4 was initially released on PlayStation 2, but Persona 4 Golden on PS Vita added in new characters and new events and new storylines, so it's definitely very much the definitive version of the game. You play as a Japanese high school student who is sent from Tokyo to live in a small Inaka village in the countryside of Japan, where a murder occurs quite early on, and you and your high school friends have to solve the murder and find out what's going on. The wonderful thing about it is that it mixes sort of a dating sim type social sim thing, where every day you're talking to your friends and improving your social life and your social bonds with people. And then the stronger those friendships are, the stronger those characters are for you when you take them into the kind of other dimension where the monsters are to fight. And it connects the two different types of gameplay so well and so perfectly, and I just love it. Alex, what was your take on it? What did you watch?
I watched the video that you sent me, and this is probably one of the games that I could probably play.
Okay.
It looks really interesting, and I like my slices of life, and I like my real things, and I think this looks really really good. I think I would waste my time doing mundane things most of the times, like go and eat some ramen or just chat with my friends instead of trying to find the murderer. But I like it, and I like the fact that it just uses different mediums. Like there's a manga, there's a anime, there's different ways to consume Persona 4. It's not just the game. I could easily, that's one of the games probably that I could easily spend hours on. Although I'm not a gamer, I could easily spend hours on that. And I know, because when you said that I could get it on Steam, I was just like, no. It's just because I can see myself, one of those games I can see myself playing.
I think you would definitely like this game. Yeah. And the nostalgia
but I
now
cannot
of
spend 60 billion hours like you guys do playing a video game. Yeah. It looks amazing. It looks really cool, and I would enjoy it also because it's just very Japanese, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it's very much, it feels like the place we lived in Japan a bit. Like Persona 5 that came out later is set in Tokyo, and that's like a nice setting, but something about the country, rural setting of Persona 4 really grabs me and just really reminds me of my time in Japan. And also, I don't know if it came through in the videos, but the design of the game, like the design of the menus and stuff, is so stylish. Like it's style over substance, but in a way that really works. Like they're just beautiful to look at and move through. Yellow is the color of the game very much, and then the music is, I mean, the music is beyond wonderful. It's so good. So yeah, that's Persona 4 Golden. Go on, Dan.
I think it might be all the Persona games, but in Persona 5, you have to like look at each month in your calendar, and it's almost like a puzzle. You have to build up your NPC relationships so they're stronger once you go to a palace where you go and invade the thing. But if you don't do it by a certain date, then it's game over and you got to start again.
Yes.
Is it the same?
Yeah, it's very similar in Persona 4. There will always be once in Persona 4. The way it works is people disappear into the TV, and you have to go into the TV to rescue them. And if a certain number of days pass after they fall into the TV, they die. So yeah, it's very similar to Persona 5, where there's a very specific deadline to each bit of the game. But then the pressure is really on a daily basis, because certain actions will move you on to the next day, and you always need to be really carefully thinking about, what do I need to do? What's my best thing to do? Do I go and talk to Chie, or do I go and have a beef bowl? It's so good.
Or wash my clothes, or
yeah. Or
Yeah,
do I go and
pretty much our life in Japan.
Yeah. Or in Persona
What did I do
5, it's
today?
like, do I go and get some illicit drugs from this doctor who's like this
who
undercover
seduces
doctor
you?
who seduces you? Yeah, the games are they're so good. Okay, so that's Persona 4 Golden, my 5th favourite game of all time. Absolutely adore it. I still have a PS Vita specifically just so that I have access to that game. There's no other reason to go near a PS Vita. Dan, what's your number 5?
So before I talk about my number 5, I just wanted to
Hit me.
say I have not related to you guys talking about how hard it is to make like to get your top 5 of whichever category it is much up until this. It is so difficult, and I ummed and ahed, and I thought, oh, should I put in like more indie games, or should I do games that are more true to what I like? And it's such an evolving list. So it was a hard list, like.
Yeah.
But it was fun to go over. And this game I was going to swap out with a game called Braid. I was going to make that my 5th, but I didn't.
Really? Wow.
Glad I didn't after reading about it and doing my research. So my number 5 is a game called BioShock.
Wow,
okay. It was released in what some say is a golden year of video games, 2007. Portal was released then.
Okay.
Another game on my list was released then. It was released in August 2007 by Irrational Games, or they were 2K Games at the time. And it came out on PC, Xbox 360 and PS3, and I absolutely love it. It the game explores a utopian society that's turned into a dystopia because of the greed of its inhabitants, and it has really, really strong characters and really, really strong themes. But it builds all those themes just from you going through the game. Like I remember, there was a lot of hype about it when it came out, and it starts off, you're on this plane and you're sitting in a chair, and then the plane crashes and you're in the ocean and there's lots of flames and fire and everything. And you swim to this lighthouse, and then you're in this lighthouse, and you go into this thing called a bathysphere, which is like an elevator that takes you underwater, basically. And it just draws you in. And it sounds strange to say, oh, it's about humans' greed, it's about capitalism, it's about rich versus poor, when it's set in an underwater city. But it just works. It just works. Did you watch the video I sent through for that one, Alex?
Yes, I did. I thought, well, first of all, I read all your comments. So you sent me a little thing, which I thought was really interesting to know exactly how you felt about it. And I thought, that looks like a really interesting game. Then I watched the trailer, and the trailer is like really confusing though. What the hell is happening? I was like, what? But then shout out to the girlfriend reviews.
Oh, she's brilliant.
YouTube. And I watched the video, and I was like, I kind of want to play this game. It looks amazing.
Oh.
It looks just really interesting, like a really interesting concept. And I don't know. I thought it was, I don't know. It kind of made me want to play it, especially like you kind of sold the games to me with your little why you chose them, and I was like, oh, interesting. And I thought, yeah, girlfriend reviews definitely sold it to me more.
Oh,
And it looks good, but really hard to do though, doesn't it?
it's
Is it not hard?
it's got a little bit of difficulty. It's not like hard like Demon Souls we were talking about earlier, but I'm glad those little write-ups helped, because I was like, I watched a trailer for one of the games and I was, well, this is a 2-minute long trailer and I've spent so many hours in this game and it doesn't give any of the feelings
Yeah.
that the game evokes. And Bioshock for me was just a first-person shooter which absolutely elevated what they could be and blended in art and video games. Like, it combines like being a first-person shooter where it's got really fun combat, and you've got this like, it's called plasmids. It's kind of like your left hand shoots magic, or it's not magic, but this genetic modification. So the combat's fun. You've got like a 1-2 punch you can use with your left and right hand, and your trigger controls each one. But it's also got survival horror elements where you're sometimes being hunted by these things called big daddies, which are people who are sealed inside this old school diver suit, and they got a drill for an arm, and they'll just drill right through you. But then there's like a bit of RPG and leveling up in there and stealth too. It's it's so good, and it's linked around this morality too. You as the player get to decide to a certain extent, not a great extent, what you do, and I just have such fond memories of it. It all just comes together. That's kind of a theme for my list. It all comes together as one like atmospheric package. What do you think, George? You played it, right?
Well, Alex very much summed it up with like, what the hell is going on? I think is like the whole game. You're just like, what the hell is going on? It's such a uniquely. I think that's what made it so great at the time, was that there just had never been a game like that exploring those themes. I guess Ayn Rand is that the one where Ayn Rand is a big touchstone, like her philosophy, which I don't know much about, but I know that people have talked about that being quite important to the Bioshock universe and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I really love Bioshock. It's not on my list. Cool. Okay, good stuff.
Just one last thing about Bioshock.
Go, hit me.
I think some games do really poorly is that the majority of the story is told by these little audio tapes you get. And some games you have to go and collect them, and then if you press start or you move through the world, like they stop playing, and you don't really want to listen to them because it's just so much boring, like just waffle. But Bioshock, everything that they added to the game added to the immersion, and really it served a purpose. It wasn't just there so half of or a tenth of the audience will look at that and then write a Wikipedia page about it. It was there because you felt involved.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like Bioshock wasn't the first game to do those audio diary things, but it was definitely like after Bioshock did that, every game was doing it for years, and it became like some games do it so badly, where you clearly like the marketing team or something have said games are more successful if they have audio diaries, so you need to make a load of audio diaries for this game, and the people will be like, but it doesn't make sense. So yeah, no, Bioshock does it really well. Although again, why are people in Rapture carrying around tape recorders and then just leaving them lying around? It doesn't totally.
It's a hugely arrogant. And they,
I guess
that's what they're at. They want to record because they made the city of the best people in the world, right? To bring them underwater.
Yeah, no, very true.
This utopian society, and they want to record it and create their own history. Maybe.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I hope they bring Bioshock back at some point and we get some more games following those themes, because it was cool. Right, my number 4 then.
Oof.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game that I'm pretty much certain is going to be on your list as well, Dan, so you can let me know if it's true. But it's linked in with a book series you were talking about earlier. My favourite game, my 4th favourite game of all time, was released in 2015 for the Xbox 360. No, the Xbox One.
Yeah,
Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC. It is the masterpiece, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
This is also on my list.
I thought it might be.
It is. I was very excited when I saw both of them.
You've already explained, you play as Geralt of Rivia. This is the 3rd game in the series based on the books by the Polish author whose name you said earlier. And I have not played The Witcher.
Say it, George. Say it.
I can't.
Say his name, George.
It's Andrzej Sulawski, something like that, is it? Sapkowski. Yeah, sorry. I mean, he's an amazing author. wrote these great books. So I haven't played The Witcher 1 or The Witcher 2. I just played The Witcher 3 because it was kind of being talked about as a huge game when it came out. And it was very much, it was such a, the experience of playing it was so good because I was playing it and I got about 15 hours in and I was like, this is all right. And it wasn't until literally, it was probably about 60 hours in that I suddenly realized I was playing one of the best games I'd ever played. Like it was this crazy thing of it just builds and builds and builds, and the story is told so effectively that it just got, eventually I was like, oh, this is my favorite game. Oh, okay, I love this game. I just suddenly realized it. It's glorious. The gameplay is very much, exploring this massive open world, going around these different villages, taking on contracts to kill monsters. You've got 2 swords. Your steel sword is for humans and your silver sword is for monsters. You can take potions to improve your various different stats and things like that, and you're finding gear to level up. And the thing I love about it the most is the writing. I think the writing in this game is hilarious. It's really witty. The character of Geralt is like, witches are meant to have no emotion, so he's very like dry, but he's really, really like, in his dryness is so much humour, and then some of the situations they put him in throughout the game are not the situations you would ordinarily find a character like that in, and it's just funny. The juxtaposition of that is really funny. The supporting cast is really good. Like Ciri, for example, like the game is kind of built around him looking for his sort of, not daughter, but kind of adopted daughter, who's called Ciri, but not Ciri like the Apple assistant. And she's a really great character. Like you occasionally like jump to her and plays her for a bit and see her story, and she's a really strong character, and it's just glorious. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, it is glorious. It's a great way to describe it. I completely agree with what George said, and more like it has, one of the things I love about the game is the choice it gives you. And a few mates have played it, and they've been like 20 hours in, and they've got past like the tutorial, which is absolutely massive, it's at least 10 hours. It's quite a complex game, like in its functions. And then they've chosen this story path where they didn't get the girl, or someone dies, and they've just restarted the game. So because that's how much the characters leave an impression on people. They'd rather spend 20 hours more of their time to see where that character takes them. My favourite thing about The Witcher...
Alex looks like she's about to have a panic attack.
I will tell you my thoughts in a second.
Okay.
My favourite thing about The Witcher... It's that, like George said it, like when you're playing it, you realise that this is amazing, and it's kind of set a new... It's like genre defining for an open world RPG. Like any RPG open world game that came after it is likely to have copied some of the features. Assassin's Creed borrows heavily from it, or is inspired heavily from it, which is great. But my favourite thing is the quests. The quests are actually fun. It's not like you go to an NPC who's boring, who has the same voice actor as maybe 20 other people in the game, and says, go to A and bring me back this thing, and then go to B and then come back to me. It is incredible, and that's because they had a dedicated quest team. There was a guy, I think his name's Philip Weber, and his job was basically the quest designer, and what they would do for every single quest, whether it was like main story or whatever, they would think of an idea and a theme, whether it was redemption or forgiveness or deceit or something like that, and then he'd bring it to the team, and then they'd write it, and then they'd bring that to the software team and they'd make it. And that's how they didn't have the continuous, boring kind of thing that so many of these massive open world games have. That it just gets a bit tiring.
Yeah, where you go to a new town and everyone just wants you to find five blue flowers because my blue flower recipe is missing 5 blue flowers. So please go get 5 blue flowers.
Exactly.
It's like the only game of that kind ever where the side quests are as good or even better in a lot of cases than the main quest line. It's impressive.
It's so true. Yeah. What did you think, Alex, when you looked it up?
Well, I was just thinking, George said, after 68 hours, I realised that this was an incredible game. It's like, that's a little bit like Stockholm syndrome, isn't it? Just like, oh yeah, I love this game. Like you've played it for 60 hours.
Yeah.
It's a long time. Well, like I read Dan's, and Dan, you like, I just love it. I said a new framework for open world. You were so enthusiastic about it, and it looks amazing. Yeah, it looks amazing. It just feels like you're just wasting a lot of time doing other things. Do you not get bored of the side quest? It just always seems like you're talking to someone.
No, because each side
doing
quest
something
is
else.
like a short story. Like you don't get bored of short stories, do you?
Yeah.
Like each side quest is its
Yeah.
own contained. That's what makes it so good. Is that you suddenly are in this world of this character's little world, and it's so compelling to
Okay.
get to the end of their little story. That's kind of what makes the game so good, and you
Yeah.
can play it for so many hours. Is because you're constantly getting these new little stories, and you're getting conclusions to them as well. So you're just constantly getting these little
Yeah.
bursts of like, oh, that was really engaging and endearing, and then you go and find somebody else, and they want you to find their goat. And like I always remember the side quest, Dan.
guess.
Do you remember where you have to go and get a goat for somebody and like lead it back to their
Yeah.
little thing? It's just so good. Or like there's a woman whose frying pan is being stolen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the
in
frying
White
pan. I
Orchard.
saw that in about 3 different videos.
yeah.
The frying
Yeah,
pan.
people love the
quest
frying
of the
pan.
frying pan.
It's brilliant.
And then she says, "Is this my frying pan?" Yes, it is.
And can't you choose to like hit her with the frying pan or throw the frying pan away? And it's just like
Possibly, yeah.
you've got all these options.
But also in the girlfriend reviews, she talks about a card game. Is it a card game?
Gwent.
Do they play
Yeah.
cards in
Gwent.
it? I didn't really understand that.
So there's a card game within the world of The Witcher 3 called Gwent, and basically every character you talk to, you can challenge them to a game of Gwent. And there's a whole set of
Okay.
stories around that as well. I don't really Final Fantasy games are famous for having card games in them as well, and I've never I've never engaged with a card game in an RPG, and this continues to be the case. I didn't really like Gwent.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan, have you done Gwent?
Cool.
Have you
I've done a
Gwented?
bit of Gwent, and I played it for a bit, and it was more fun
Okay.
going to the side quests and having that kind of standalone story with these multifaceted characters that last for an hour or half an hour than playing Gwent. But a friend played it, and he's like, I can't do the main quest, I'm too addicted to Gwent.
Yeah, that is another cool thing about the game. Is like if you're Alex and you just want to see the main story, you can just go through the main story. If you really like exploring the world, you can go and do the side quests and learn more about the world. And if you like strategy games, you can just play Gwent. It's like it lets you do whatever you want, whatever you will enjoy the most. You can just follow that. It's pretty impressive.
And for a game that had such a massive scope, it only took 3.5 years to make, which sounds like a long time, but some of these other games on the list have been in development 7 years at least. You know,
Yeah.
they're not as big. And
It's not on my list, but
1,500 people, but
yeah, it's not on my list. But Final Fantasy 15 famously took a decade to make, so 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah, 3.5 years for The Witcher 3 is amazing. Actually, what they did.
Definitely.
you touched on it earlier as well, George. You talked about like the alchemy or like taking potions. Because like a witcher, their job is to go and hunt creatures or whatever. Part of the game has a bestiary. So if you know you're going to go and kill, I don't know, this creature, you can look it up in the bestiary and it will tell you what potion you need to take, tell you some lore about the like the creature, whatever. It will tell you what blade works best and this, that, and the other.
And what
And I
oil
found
to
that
put on your blade as well,
What
right?
oil, yeah,
Yeah.
the oils. And it just added so much to the world. And it's completely optional.
Yeah.
You don't have to read it. But if you did, you felt more connected and you were in a better position when you went into the fight.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
So, Dan, what's your number 4?
My number 4 has a 3 in it. But it's not The Witcher 3. It's Halo 3.
No. Go get on your warthog and drive home.
Yeah, this is just pure nostalgia pick. It was released in 2007 by a studio called Bungie, on the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
With great names, not enough X's in that name. I remember I had an Xbox One, like the big box, like the black one, and I played Halo 2 a lot, and I played it online a lot.
Yeah.
And then I remember Halo 3 being announced, and it was it was one of the biggest. It was the biggest release of any video game up until that point at that time. They spent $40 million on their marketing campaign.
Yeah,
and I remember I ditched school. I was in sixth form, and I waited for the postie to come, and he gave me the game. I got it a day before release too. I got it on the 24th, and I was like, "Yeah, I got it a day before release. I'm so lucky." And then he like walked by my place, and like the windows open, and I just remember being like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna play Halo! Oh, I'm so hyped!" And he must have heard. Like it was like right next to the door. I'll always remember that. And yeah, basically, it's a first-person shooter, and you play as John 117 or Master Chief, as he's called. He's a genetically modified super soldier who just likes to smash some aliens. Like, it's not on my list because of the story. Because the story, I'm sure other people love it, but for me, I just find it a bit convoluted and a bit confusing.
that is like an understatement.
Yeah, it's like this and Metal Gear Solid. Like, what I do love it for though is the gameplay, and I think I've played all the Halos. I think they're up to number 5 now. But I think Halo 3, and when I was researching it, I saw some other similar opinions. Like, I feel like it's the best the gameplay's ever been in Halo, and it's just so tight. Like to match the controls with the game physics and how your character moves in the game is just brilliant. But the nostalgia for me is firing it up, playing on Xbox Live, and playing with my friends, and just loving it and everything it did. Like, when I was writing my notes, I was like, I don't know how much I have to say for Halo. I just played it online a lot, and it was fun. But I wrote a page, and I realised some of the stuff it did, like genre defining it. It was one of the first games to bring in a theatre mode. So you and your friends could play, if you got these awesome kills, if you're in the lobby or in the game room with people, everyone in the lobby could go into your theatre lobby, and you could watch that back together. Or you could just upload it to the computer and share it.
Yeah.
You could follow every game you played online, and you could look at top-down bird's eye view maps of the level for death maps and death heat maps, and for kill heat maps, your accuracy with each like gun. I just thought it was just, they went so extra on the multiplayer, and it really worked. And
was Halo 3 the game where they introduced the Forge?
Yes, the Forge, the map making, the Forge. And that was where you could basically take any of the maps and just make it your own, and then have custom games in it. And it was, for what it was, like the multiplayer was just almost, in my opinion, perfect. And I remember firing up that game and hearing the soundtrack. And for me, the soundtrack by Marty O'Donnell, who's just an absolute genius, is one of the greatest game soundtracks in existence. And it's up there with like themes like the Star Wars theme. It's so iconic. It is just brilliant. And I love Halo 3 and playing it online. It's the only reason I own an Xbox One now, for the Master Chief Collection. Have you played it, Alex? George, have you guys played it?
Did you get the special edition of it with the helmet?
I didn't get that because it wouldn't fit my head. It was like too small, right?
It was like a cat helmet.
Yeah, right. I was going to say that.
It was a helmet for cats. I played. What did I play? So Halo 2 came out when I was in sixth form, and I got an Xbox then and played Halo 2 and went back and played Halo 1 and loved them, and then was obsessed. And yeah, I was so excited when Halo 3 came out, and I got the cat helmet with it. And I don't like first-person shooters aren't my favourite genre of video game, especially nowadays, and I don't like playing online very much because I don't like losing. So I prefer to play against a computer when I know I can win. Like the kind of gameplay loop of playing at Halo Online, where I run out, somebody shoots me and kills me, and I just respawn, run out again, get killed, and it just, for me, I have never enjoyed that. But I was definitely at the time all in on the story of Halo, which now I couldn't even begin to tell you what it is. But yeah, Master Chief, I thought Master Chief was the coolest, and yeah, I remember playing Halo 3 and absolutely loving it. But then like Halo ODST and Halo The Fall of Reach and Halo 4 and Halo 5, and now my appreciation for Halo has like dropped quite a bit. But earlier this year in lockdown, I did build a gaming PC, and then with my brother played co-op all the way through Halo 1 and the Master Chief Collection, and then all the way through Halo 2, and now we're up to Halo 3. And I'm really loving going back, and I'm really enjoying going back and seeing it again, and I'm really excited to play through Halo 3 again because it is a classic. It's a really good campaign. So yeah. Alex, what did you make of it when you watched the videos about it? Because it must look mad.
Well, the thing is, Halo is the only one that I have watched people play.
Okay.
So, because I think it was so big that I just like, oh yeah, this is Halo, and the marketing campaign was so big. Everybody played Halo at some point in time, and I've watched people play Halo, and so it was like, oh yeah, it's a classic. I know Halo. I know what they're doing. They're trying to kill people, and I think I've played it as well, but I'm one of those people that goes shoots and then gets shot and then gets shot again. I'm just really. Yeah, I'm terrible, and I get scared, and I tend to spend the time behind a barrel or something. So yeah, no, Halo is Halo. It's a classic.
I think it's brilliant, and it's funny because I don't play any competitive multiplayer games, and I rarely play first-person shooters now. 2 of the games have been FPSs, but I just it did it did what it did so well, and it's kind of like The Witcher in a way, where first-person shooters existed way before Halo, of course. But the features like Forge mode, the theater mode, they all do it now. Like,
yeah. I think they were Halo was kind of pioneer of something, because if I know it, that means there must have been something different and successful.
It was like the biggest. It was the biggest entertainment launch in history. I think Halo 3. It was huge.
So
and that was when that was right around the time that Peter Jackson was going to make a film, and all of this stuff, which that never happened. But he made the Hobbit movies instead.
But what would you make a film of?
Well, I mean, there is a story. It's just mad. It's just totally bonkers.
Oh, they have to adapt it. So
Yeah.
You know the guy that directed District 9, Neil Blomkamp, I think?
Yes. Yeah. He did a short film, didn't he?
He did a short film, and some of the marketing, I was watching it back earlier, it's absolute genius. They have this, like, real-world actors who play as vets. This isn't Neil Blomkamp's movie. This is just like a separate ad. Yeah. And it's like you're watching a documentary of veterans, just interviewing them after a war, but they're talking about the events of the game. And it's just amazing. They've got like battle scars and stuff, and they're picking up like weapons in the game that haven't been revealed yet, but are live action, like in this, with real people showing them and revealing these things in this advert. I just thought it's such a genius kind of advertising style. They just did such a good job with it, and it was obviously a success. Like 1 million people were playing online at once in the first 24 hours it was released.
Okay, so that's your number. Was that your number 4?
Number four, Halo 3.
Fan Dabby Dozy. Okay, so moving on. My number 3. This is the one on the list that's probably my most personal game, most personal, like specific to what I enjoy. Alex is nodding her head. This is a game. It came out in 2018 for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC. I've played an unreasonable number of hours of this game, over like replaying the same bits and levels over and over and over again. I am completely obsessed with it. I love it I just completely adore it, and it is the video game Hitman 2. The Hitman series has been going for years, since the early 2000s when it was on PC, and then it went through a bunch of iterations, and then the developer IO Interactive kind of redefined what a Hitman game was with Hitman 1 in 2016 and then Hitman 2 in 2018. And in the games you play as Agent 47, a bald assassin with a barcode on the back of his head, and you're dropped into these big sandbox-esque locations in which you have a target or 2 free targets that you have to kill, and then you are free to work out how to kill them however you want. And the joy of the recent games is that you replay the levels over and over again, finding new, different, inventive ways to take out your targets, and then building upon it. And you find different bits of story out, the different ways you complete the levels, and it just kind of... It's just wonderful and perfect, and I love it. I completely love it. For example, there's a great, like the first level of Hitman, and the great thing about Hitman 2 is that if you owned Hitman 1, they allowed you to import all of the stuff from Hitman 1 into Hitman 2. So then Hitman 2 becomes both games in one package. So the first level of Hitman 1 is set in Paris at a fashion show, and you have to kill the man that's kind of running the fashion show, and then there's a secret auction going on in the top of this big mansion, and you have to kill the woman that's running this auction. And like one of the ways you can do it is, there's a great way you can do it where you can sneak up to the audio-visual bit, tech bit, and steal this remote that will set off fireworks. And then you can sneak up to the top balcony and set off the fireworks, and the woman will go out onto the balcony to watch the fireworks, and the man who you're meant to kill will come down to the bottom and watch the fireworks from the garden. And they're lined up perfectly so that if you push the woman off the balcony, she'll land on the man below and kill them both in one smooth move, and then you just sneak away. And the ultimate, the thing I adore about it is when you first play that Paris level, you could never imagine doing that. Like, it just feels impossible to even get near the remote control, let alone to the balcony. And the more times you'll fudge it, and you'll run up and shoot the guy and find the one, and you'll kind of make a mess of it. And then the more times you play it, you get smoother and smoother, so that eventually you'll be able to do it without having to change. Like, you change into different disguises to get into different areas. But once you know the map well enough, you'll be able to sneak around in your normal suit and not be seen by anyone, and make it all look like an accident, and get in and get out as if you've never been there. And like the mastery, like mastering each level to be able to do that is just the sweetest gameplay loop I have ever experienced, and I just adore it. Dan, I think I brought you this game.
You did. You bought it for me, and
to make you play it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. It's like, I played Hitman 2 Silent Assassin, and then I played the one that it was called a Hitman game, but it was more like an action third-person shooter.
Was that Absolution?
Yes.
Yeah, I really don't like that one at all.
It definitely changes up the formula, but no, I loved it, and I got to play through Hitman 1 first. Like you said, you can play them all within the game, and what I love about it is like the different routes that you've already covered, but how each level is so detailed for the environment it's trying to portray. Like there's a Formula 1 level, and again, it's all these different ways to kill the target, but they make you feel you're in a nice city at the Formula 1, surrounded by rich people. And then in the Hitman 2, I think the first level set in New Zealand, on a beach.
Yeah.
And you're just at this posh house on the beach, and to think of a destination like New Zealand in a game is awesome. It's so unique, and they just do it really, really well. There's a level in Hokkaido, like a wellness retreat, and
that's great. I love that level.
Absolutely love it. And I love how the game kind of gives you, like the what you were saying about pushing the wife onto the husband. There are things in the menu that let you know, they give you hints on how to do them. Like they set you challenges, and it would say something like fooling wife or something. That's a really bad description, but it wouldn't tell you exactly how to do it, but you could kind of guess from the clue, and it really works. It really works so well. I've got to finish Hitman 2 properly and then play the third one when it comes out in January.
Oh yeah, the third one's coming out in January, and they've already unveiled a level set in an English mansion in the countryside, and it's a bit like it's like an Agatha Christie murder mystery. There's a family has come together because someone's been murdered, and then you can like impersonate the detective that's coming in to like investigate and find out who the killer is. It looks awesome. It looks really cool. But yeah, like you were just saying then, Dan, what they do is they give you they're called mission stories, I think, in each level, where it will lead you through a specific way of doing the murder. But then, and once you've done all of those, then there will be extra hidden ways of doing it that it won't lead you through, and you kind of have to work them out from those little hints, like you said. And like another cool thing is each time you finish a level, you kind of level up that level, and it will unlock like new items that you can use in that level, or new bits of the level you can start in, or new costumes, and it kind of just adds I love it. I absolutely love it. Alex, what did you make of it?
It's a really interesting concept, and it's cool that you can kind of like go and kill people, and you're a hitman, and it looks cool. What I was wondering, does it not get boring after a while that you just keep doing the same thing, which is just killing someone?
No, because
like, does it not get like repetitive? Because I was, it's an interesting concept. Does it not get a little bit repetitive?
No, because,
You know, it's an interesting concept. Does it not get a little bit repetitive? Because I was, it's an interesting concept. Does it not get a little bit repetitive? Because I was, it's an interesting concept. Does it not get a little bit repetitive?
No, it doesn't for me, because you kind of set yourself new challenges each time. You're like, right, well, I did it this way last time. How can I improve on that and do it kind of... It's a bit... This is a ridiculous analogy, but it's...
Is there any way that you can get caught?
Oh, yeah, completely. Yeah, so if
Okay.
you get caught and get seen, you can go away and hide and get a new costume or that kind of thing. But the aim is always to not get seen.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's quite difficult to get through it without being seen and without being caught is the challenge. And it's a bit like learning a musical instrument. Like when you're practicing, you're doing the same thing, but you're improving on your ability.
Yeah.
So you'll be like, right, well, this time can I get this costume quicker, and can I kill them this way, and will this work, and will these pieces go together properly? And another thing I haven't mentioned yet is it's funny. It's really, really hilarious. Like similar to The Witcher, your guy Agent 47 is incredibly deadpan but very funny. And like there's a level where you can there's just this funny thing where he's always brilliant at whatever he does. So there's a level where you have to kill kind of a famous rock star in a hotel, and the rock star's kind of done to be a bit of a Jared Leto-esque irritating guy, and you can knock out his drummer and impersonate his drummer, and then there's a bit where you have to go and do some drumming, and he's just like his Agent 47 is amazing at drumming just because that's how he fits into the world of this bit. And that's really funny. And like he'll like if you ever have to impersonate somebody and have a conversation with a target, it'll be full of a double entendres about like, you know, I'm sure you... Like, if you impersonate a doctor, your target might be like, oh, I feel really sick today. And Agent 47 will be like, oh, well, soon you won't be feeling anything at all, so don't worry. It's just, like, it's just very, very good and very funny and witty and stuff. So, yeah. But, yeah, so off what you saw of it, it just looked a bit like it would be too repetitive. I can see that. But it's never felt that way for me, because it's just the fun of it. And then like you might just mess around for a bit and be like, oh, if I take a shotgun in and just run around shooting everyone, like how will that go? And it's just it's just cool, like playing with Lego a little bit, just messing around with the pieces and seeing what happens.
Just the same.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Trying to kill people with throwing them a piece of Lego.
Yeah, and the really exciting thing actually is IO Interactive, who make Hitman games. Their Hitman 3 is coming out in January, and then they announced a couple of days ago that they're working on a James Bond game. And we know from previous episodes that I adore James Bond, and the idea of the people who make one of my favourite games making a Bond game fills me with excitement. And I really hope that they're using the Hitman model and kind of, you know, if it's a series of missions for James Bond to do to infiltrate some locations and stuff, that'd be really cool. I'm really excited to see what they're doing. So, yeah, big love for Hitman. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, good times. Hitman 2. So what's your number 3, Dan?
My number 3 is a game that was released on October 26th, 2018. It was released for the PS4, the Xbox One, or the Xbone, and the PC.
Yeah.
The PC version came a bit later.
Yeah.
And it is called Red Dead Redemption 2. And I love it. Like, it came out just for Halloween, and I dressed up as the main dude for Halloween. God,
no, you didn't.
Child. Yes,
did
I
you
did.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd done that.
No.
No, it's just like a casual work thing. But
You dressed
what
up
is
as
the
Arthur?
game? Arthur Morgan.
Arthur Morgan.
You play as a bad guy, and you're in a gang, and it's set in the Wild West at the time where the Wild West was ending and the modern age was arriving, and it's just brilliant. I think out of all the games on my list, it's number 3, but it is number 1 in atmosphere. When Rockstar made the game, I think they started development. I think it was about 5 years or maybe 7 years they were developing it for some elements. It wanted to feel like you were exploring a living world, and their history was GTA, which is hugely famous and hugely popular. But with that in Red Dead, it feels like every single action that you take adds to the world and is there for a purpose. The story has so many incredible themes. Its main theme is kind of forgiveness and redemption, hence the name. But it also talks about family. It talks about greed. The cast is absolutely phenomenal. It is, a few episodes back, you talked about the Watchmen series on HBO. I feel
Yeah.
like this game is a kind of HBO TV series. The quality is exceptional. I mean, all of the voice acting is amazing and so iconic. They just did such a brilliant job. And I read earlier that so that there would be so much dialogue, key actors had 2,000-page scripts, and kind of like separate NPCs who just walk by would have like 80 pages. And it's just ridiculous, like the kind of detail they went into. Some people feel like the over-realism that the game makes you do. For example, it will make you... There's a part in the game where you're building a fence, and it will make you press the buttons to put in the post for the fence, or dig the hole and then put in the posts, and then, build it. And it's a bit laborious, but it's meant to feel like that. It's meant to make you feel like, I'm doing a bit of a chore. And it's meant to slow you down to bring you into that kind of world. And I just think it does it so well. You explore America, and you explore all these different environments that America's known for, like beautiful canyons and mountains and forests, and swamps, and there are all these unique animals that are relative to the region. The music is amazing, and the kind of the morality system it has is quite big. It plays a huge role in like the first ending that can kind of break your heart. But yeah, I just absolutely love it. Oh, it's just brilliant.
Dan,
Yes.
defend the sequence where you go to that other country for like 2 hours and it's rubbish.
Another thing I like about the game is that the narrative takes you on a journey, whereas like other games you choose it. This game, yeah, you go to this like tropical island, and it's not the best. I kind of liked it. It's not the best part of the game. It's not like exploring the Wild West, which is where the game's at its best.
Yeah.
But there are certain character elements that happen there. Like one character, he's the leader of the gang, and he's very, very paranoid, and he's incredibly greedy. And Arthur Morgan, who's voiced by Roger Clark, is just saying, "No, man, let's just slow down a bit now. Let's have a break." But he just pushed it to the extinct. So I think that tropical island bit that you're saying kind of veers off from the Wild West setting, but it does it for a purpose to kind of prove how insane Vandervelde is. I forgot his first name.
Dutch Van der Linde, right?
Yeah, Dutch Van der Linde, yeah.
But Dan, I just want to be a cowboy on my horse.
Play a different game, dude. This game's more than being a cowboy.
It is the most immersive game I've ever played. And yeah, it's not flashy, and it like some of the stories it tells in the side quests are really kind of upsetting in a way and not necessarily exciting. But it just creates this world that kind of really accurately shows maybe what it would have been like to live in that era where it was pretty horrible. It wasn't a nice time to live.
Yeah, and his kind of story is heartbreaking because he's like an outlaw, right? He's not a good guy, and he's the protagonist for most of the game.
Yeah,
and
but he's not
a bad dude.
Yeah, but he's not a cruel man, is he? He's not horrible. He's just surviving.
He's just surviving, but he's definitely not a good man. I think it's fair to say. He's
that's totally fair.
But he robs and murders people, and you kind of join in after he's done that for quite a while and become 2IC to the leader of the gang. And just how he gets redemption if you choose that it's just so well done, and there are really strong emotional themes to the main story, but of course there are side quests, and they really interlink well. I don't know how they've done it. Perhaps it was the stage I was at in the game, but there were certain themes about him, forgiving himself or trying to make amends with his ex-partner or whatever, and it's just felt throughout the whole world. I just think it's such a monumental achievement.
Yeah. And it's such like 2 years after the game came out, there was still a huge community of people trying to find new secrets in the world of the game, because there's just they've packed it so full of, there's ghosts in there, there's Bigfoot, you can like. I feel like there's loads of stuff that you would never ever find unless you put hundreds of hours into it. It's an impressive piece of work. Alex, what did you make of it?
So it looks amazing. The scenery, everything looks incredible, and there seems to be a lot of talking. And it just feels like it will take ages to complete.
Oh yeah.
How long did you play for, Dan?
It doesn't give you a time tracker if you play it on PlayStation.
Okay.
But I found out a way to find out how long, and it was I think it was like 180 hours. But I used to like come back from work and just play like 5 hours hunting animals. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm spending 5 hours hunting animals, but they made it fun. It's like Animal Crossing, those kind of things that was kind of boring on paper but fun to do.
Okay. Well, like it looks amazing, and I think that was one of the first girlfriend reviews. This one, because she did it twice. There's a lot of animal killing, which you just said. Is there a purpose of killing so many animals?
Yeah. You can upgrade your equipment, right?
You can upgrade your equipment.
Okay.
You can sell them. I guess at the time, you meet a tanner. Oh, he's not called a tanner, but you meet someone who you sell the skins to or the coats to.
Okay.
But there's a theme of like these legendary animals, and you have to track them. There's like maybe 20 in the game or whatever, and you have to go to. It doesn't tell you where they are. It's got like a rough region, and you actually have to track them in the game, and it's really addictive.
I think that was the most fun I had in the game. I think that was my favourite part, was the legendary animals. Really enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really good.
Awesome. So we're getting into our top 2. I'm excited.
Yes, please. So my number 2 is a game that came out this very year, 2020. And it might seem a bit early to already put it in at my number 2 slot, but I can't emphasize enough how much I adore and love this game. It just tore me apart, and I had experiences playing this game that I've never had ever in any medium. It kind of redefined what a video game can do for me, and I completely adore it. It came out on June 19th, 2020, and the game is The Last of Us Part 2.
I have this also.
Oh, do you? It's on your list?
Yeah, is this your number? What number is this for you?
Number 2.
Yeah, it's also my number 2.
Ah,
so
well,
you know what my number 1 is.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, that's good. I'm glad. So, yeah, I don't even know where to begin. I guess to begin with, it's a sequel to The Last of Us, a Naughty Dog that came out in like sort of 2014, maybe. Did it come out sort of 2013, 2014? Which is it's a post-apocalyptic game. It starts right where as the apocalypse is starting. You play as this guy's daughter, Joel's daughter, and something horrific happens, and it cuts to 20 years later. The world has effectively ended. Humans are living in these quarantine zones, and there is a sort of fungus virus that turns people into these living zombie mushroom people that kill people. So it's kind of a zombie game, but they're not technically zombies. And the aim of Last of Us Part 1 is that you meet this girl, Ellie, who is immune to the virus, and you have got to take her across America to some scientists that are going to try and discover why she's immune. And The Last of Us came out, and people loved it and adored it, and it became one of the most popular games ever. And I always felt like it was fine, but I didn't love it. I thought The Last of Us Part 1... Yeah, I know you did, definitely. I liked it, but there's something about the gameplay felt a bit clunky to me, and I never quite got it in the way that other people did. So when The Last of Us Part 2 was coming out, I was excited and interested to play it because, I enjoyed The Last of Us 1, and I played through The Last of Us Part 1 again, the remastered version, before The Last of Us Part 2 came out, and I enjoyed it and liked it, but again, I was a bit like, this is, it's not going to be one of my all-time favourites, but it's a good game. Then I played through The Last of Us Part 2, and the journey I went on through that game, it tore me down. It completely broke me. It's tough to talk about it because it's a recent game and I don't want to spoil it too much for people. But there's a sequence near the end of this game where I had complete narrative breakdown in a way. Like the person I was fighting was somebody I didn't want to fight, but essentially, and I didn't want to carry on doing what the game was making me do, and I've never felt that with a video game. I've never ever had that feeling, and it was amazing, and I completely love it. The story of Ellie is an all-time perfect story for me. Why is it on your list, Dan?
Can we give spoiler warnings and talk about the spoilers?
Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll work out how long this discussion lasts, and I'll put in the show notes where to skip to if you don't want to hear it. Because let's talk spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, because I think we can't fully engage it unless we do that. So yeah, we'll do that. So Dan.
So The Last of Us 1, like you said, you play as Joel for the majority of the game, but then you play as some bits as Ellie. Ellie is Joel's kind of adopted daughter, a bit like Ciri, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because his blood daughter died, and at the start of The Last of Us 2, you play as two different characters for a little bit. You play as Joel for a little bit, and a character called Abby who's just searching for someone, and then it develops where Abby beats Joel to death in front of Ellie and in front of your eyes. And I stayed away from all spoilers and the toxic community around this game, or some of the community that's toxic. It's not all at all.
But that's definitely the point where a lot of people turn on the game, and it's the point where for me I was like, wow. I was into it from that point.
And that's exactly it. Like, it's wow. When you play the first game, because I replayed the remastered edition too, I think it was about 15 hours just on like the main game without the DLC. And you play as this character, and you're involved with them as a character for 15 hours, and the writing is absolutely exceptional. And then you look forward to this game and playing as this character again for the sequel, and then he's killed straight away, and you're like, wow. It's so bold and brave that they did that, and it's so like heartbreaking. I was like in tears. I'm not gonna lie, through a lot of that game.
Yeah,
because it's like a book. You know, if you read a book and someone dies after so long of reading about them and going on their journey, it's more of an attachment than if it was a movie.
Yeah,
or if it was, even for me, it's the most interactive form of media, and it's the most immersive form because you actively control those people. And the dialogue that I get in the game could be different from George because of the steps that I take. Anyway, I'm digressing. And Abby, the character you control us a little bit, kills Joel. And she's the one that kills Joel. So you play as Ellie, and you basically try and hunt Abby down. And revenge is one of the biggest themes of the game. And as the game goes on, this revenge slowly consumes Abby.
And Ellie.
Ellie slowly consumes her and turns it into someone that by the end of the game you don't like, or perhaps you might not. I didn't like her.
You definitely feel like you're playing as the villain by the end.
Exactly. In the first game, so Ellie is this zombie virus, right? George was talking about. She is immune, and the whole plot of the first game is to bring her to this hospital so they can make a vaccine out of her blood, but it will kill her. And Joel doesn't want that to happen. So he basically kills a surgeon who's trying to save the world, who's Abby's dad, and then escapes the hospital with her. And I remember that part in the first game. I was like, I don't want to press R1. I don't want to kill this dude.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do it. And I stood in the room for ages. I was like, I'm just going to wait till this plays out. And it doesn't. And the game forces you into these really hard decisions. Yeah. And the second game does it more so.
Yeah. I mean, crucially, in the first game, when that happens, the game ends with Ellie not actually knowing that Joel did that. Joel lies to her and tells her that they couldn't do anything and that it wasn't going to work, and that he takes her away. He's actually massacred everyone there. And then the revelation that the surgeon was Abby's dad, and that's why Abby kills Joel, is a big revelation. But for me, like, there's smaller twists in it that were even more impactful. Like the point, I was waiting in The Last of Us Part 2 for the point where you would find out as Ellie that Joel had done that Joel had murdered those people. And then the revelation comes that actually, before The Last of Us Part 2 starts, Ellie has already found that out and worked through that. And the revelation that Ellie already knows and still wants to avenge Joel's death, that's such a complex character beat that it's amazing. It really is incredible.
That's exactly it. And there's this one scene on the porch where Ellie is basically off Joel. She's like, I hate you for doing that. And he's slowly trying to bring her back into this life. And he plays her this Pearl Jam song, and it kind of works as the theme for the game, and it's brilliant. It's so good. And closest to the point where Abby kills Ellie, because the time does like fly around a bit. Abby kills Abby. Sorry, Abby kills Joel. God, I'm getting confused. Close to that point in the timeline of the game, Ellie is slowly starting to forgive Joel, and she goes to him on his porch, and they have a really nice moment. I think they hug or whatever, and that's only shown to you at the end of the game, which makes it so much more heartbreaking for her just to get over that herself and for Abby to kill her. Anyway, so...
But the fact that I started the game loving Ellie, like you start the game really liking Ellie, and then they introduce Abby and make her do something so monstrous. Immediately, you're like, well, she's the villain. I hate her. Then there's a twist halfway through the game where the timeline almost resets, and then you play the events that you've played as Ellie, but from Abby's perspective, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And then it gets to a point where you're Abby fighting Ellie, and the fact that they've introduced Abby having to do something that makes you hate her. But then by that point in the game, for me, I liked Abby more than Ellie.
Yeah.
And I had to fight Ellie, and she suddenly, a character that I had identified with and really liked, was just a villain, a boss that I had to defeat. I've never ever had that feeling in a game. I think what they did is a piece of genius, and we haven't even talked about we haven't even talked. I can't even remember what they're called. The other faction that are like with bows and arrows, and what are they called?
Oh, the cult, the church cult.
What
are they called? Where?
What's the name of the
Fireflies?
No, not the
Yara
Fireflies.
And Lev. The Seraphite?
Yeah, the Seraphites, and Lev. Like we haven't even talked about Lev, who is just, and that is introduced so late into the game and becomes like,
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying completely. When I got the controller and started playing as Abby, I was like, what the F word is this? Like, what the hell is this? Like, I don't want to play as this character. She just killed one of my favourite video game characters ever. But then you like her more than Ellie. You see Ellie go down on this horrible journey of revenge and lose who she is. And she has a partner who's pregnant, Dina. And Dina sees her losing her humanity, and Abby's gaining her humanity. And it's because the stories mirror each other, because Abby was trying to hunt Joel for her revenge, and then she killed Joel, and now Ellie is trying to do the other thing, and it just goes to show like how pointless her revenge is. And Lev and Yara, is it Yara? Lev and Yara, yeah. They are just brilliant characters. Lev is transgender, voiced by a transgender actor, and to see that represented in a video game is brilliant. To see a gay character and a bi character, or two gay characters have a baby, is absolutely brilliant. That's what video games need more of. That's what any kind of media needs more of. And I can't speak for these communities, but I can buy a game and support something that pushes that positive message. Yeah,
and it is. I think it's important to say that there are people in those communities who haven't been happy with, have criticised the representation of particularly the transgender character and around the use of their dead name by the enemies, and that's a complex issue that I don't have a solution to, certainly, and I don't want to, I'm not equipped to, and I'm not the right person to defend it. And it's just, it needs, it's important to mention that there has been criticism. For me, on my perspective, as a cis white man, the representation seemed like a positive thing, but I can understand why some communities are feeling critical of it. That makes sense.
I think I read that too, and the actor that plays them, Ian Alexander, I think he made some comments on that, or I think they made some comments on that, and the thing I read was, it's not perfect, and I don't want to speak for the communities like you said, but at least they've done it and been bold enough to do that in one of the biggest game releases of the generation, of the PS4 generation, to put multiple gay characters in, or LGBT characters in. Like, it's such a bold step, and it makes me so stoked to play games like this where it has more of a message than you're just hitting someone in the face with a hammer.
Because I'm a straight white man, and I know what that's like, and a lot of video games you play as straight white men, and I like the opportunity to see different perspectives and to experience stories from other other perspectives, basically. And like The Last of Us Part 2 really does that in a big way, and I appreciate that. So, Alex, what did you think of this game?
Like, I was very after so I the first thing I did was watch the trailer that Dan sent me, and the first thing I noticed was the fact that how realistic it looked, and I was shocked and amazed that video games have reached this point where they look absolutely incredible. Then I watched the videos that you sent me, George. I think I spent the most time on this because I think it's the most complex game that you've sent me. So I watched the 2 videos that you sent me, which I watched the recap for the Last of Us 1, which was interesting, and there you have the choice of, like, he kills someone, like, you could save humanity, so you have to choose, you're gonna save humanity or you're gonna save one person, and he makes the wrong decision, this Joel guy.
You as a player
And
can't make that
then
choice. Joel makes the choice.
Yeah, which is interesting because, like Dan said, you don't want to make that choice because you don't want to kill the doctor because you're going to save humanity. So are you going to, and that's the choice, are you going to save one person or are you going to save millions of people? And that's when, as humans, those kind of difficult decisions. And it's interesting that they put it in a game. And then the second one looked amazing, and how the story goes that you have to play as both characters in a way, and who is the good person, who's the bad person. It's like you don't really know, because as humans we make decisions that are not really necessarily always the correct decisions. And it just looks amazing, and I was surprised that it wasn't both your number ones, because you've talked about it in such an incredible way. I would have assumed that this would be more your number one than
I think part of it is just recency bias makes me reluctant to put it at number 1.
Yeah, but I'm not. I've been watching all your videos, and I think this one is the most, probably the one that is the most also current to now, situation of humanity now.
So
and the backlash that the second one has had, and the amount of wrong people actually being very nasty about it. It's really interesting, and I watched a few videos about that and how people just took it to heart about the decisions. I think it's like, this game is 2020, isn't it? And I thought it's amazing, and I would just I don't think I could play it because I would probably not be able to live, but because it's very intense for a game.
It is
very intense,
very heavy.
It's a
very
lot.
Intense.
But I think, sort of along the lines of what you're saying now, Alex, is it's also got the most. It's got the biggest range of accessibility options I've ever seen in a game. Like, they've done everything they can to make this game as accessible to everyone. Like, when we were talking about The Witcher earlier, like, even more so with this game, like, they've considered colour blindness, they've considered physical disabilities, they've considered, like, they've just done as much as they can to make this game accessible to as many people as possible, and that is to be massively commended, in my opinion. And, like, means that, like, you could play it and get through it, like, with the right settings. It would be a tough story to follow and stuff, but there wouldn't be a gameplay. A lot of the times, like, there are games that are just too difficult for some people to get through, whereas The Last of Us Part 2, they really have made it so that anyone can experience this story, and I think that's
yeah,
it should be.
But it's amazing. Did you see it's really, really incredible.
Did you see the girlfriend reviews video, Alex, on this?
Yeah, I did.
They did such a good job. I love their content. They're just amazing.
Yeah,
and they're amazing. Encapsulated how it felt.
Yeah, and I really enjoy them, because also they were accused of being paid by, I think it's Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Yeah, they were accused of being paid by Naughty Dog, and she was like, "Well, I wish we were." And and no, the girlfriend reviews were amazing, and in fact, I might just start watching the girlfriend reviews of like that, because they're really, really cool, and they explained the video game in an incredible way.
Yeah, I've never seen. Yeah, it's the best way. The best way to learn about what's good about The Last of Us Part 2 is to watch both of the videos that they did. They are masterpiece.
Yeah, and I watched both, and I spent the most time on videos and comments on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, if I ever had like 60,000 hours, I would or a game console, I would play it, but I don't.
Yeah.
30 hours.
No, definitely. Like to be totally honest, while I've been talking about this game, I'm like shaking. Like the level of emotion I have for this game is higher than anything else. Like when I put this game down, it's perfect. It's such a wonderful piece of work.
Yeah, that's why. Why is it not your number one, guys?
I
You sold it
denied.
to me.
I thought about it a lot.
I think given a bit of time
okay.
away from it, apart from it, it could be my number one. I've never played a game like it, ever.
Yeah, I could see it being the same, but I guess I thought about what you guys said about the lists are constantly evolving and changing, and I thought that for games as a whole, The Witcher did more. In terms of game mechanics, for storytelling, The Last of Us 2 did much more than any other game that's ever existed, I think. But for like the mechanics it brought in, but yeah, like it's just an amazing game. I kept really clear of like the leaks, the spoilers. I didn't know anything going in. Yeah. And then when I finished it, I looked up. Like I was like, I just finished this game. I want to talk about it. I want to read what other people are saying about it.
Yeah,
and I was
I wanted to carry on living in the
sad.
world of the. I just wanted to carry on being part of that Last of Us Part 2. I just didn't want it to end. I didn't want to stop seeing it. It's just we could carry on just saying superlatives about The Last of Us Part 2 forever. And I'd like to, because it would maybe drown out the people who are wrong about it. But
the good news, just to finish it on a good note,
it
is the third highest grossing game in the US in PlayStation history. God of War and Spider-Man are the other two above it.
Yeah,
it's the fastest selling PS4 exclusive ever, selling 4 million copies on the opening weekend.
Wow.
And it's the third best selling game of this year after Call of Duty and Animal Crossing. Although there was this like the Modern Warfare one, all of this backlash didn't hurt it, and people chose their wallets and pushed for more games like this to be made, which I think is awesome. Like, it's just an absolute masterpiece. What a game!
Yeah. So that's my number 2. That is also Dan's number 2. So then we can go to my number 1. My number 1. The only reason it goes above Last of Us Part 2 is because of time. It came out a good few years ago now, and it wasn't the first game in this sort of type of game, but it did sort of popularize a genre or type of game that then became huge, and definitely my favorite. It came out in 2011 for the Xbox 360 and for the PlayStation 3, I believe. Yeah, and was developed by From Software, and it is the game Dark Souls. So not Bloodborne, as Dan predicted earlier. Yeah, but I adore Bloodborne, but it's just because Dark Souls came first. It's what I love it, and my love affair for the Dark Souls series began with Demon's Souls, which was a PS3 exclusive that came out in like 2009, I think. And then Sony was had so little faith in it that they didn't release it in the West. It only came out in Japan, and then I think it came out in America, but maybe still not in the UK. And then GameSpot, the review website, made it Game of the Year for that year. And I remember thinking, that game looks terrible. Like, if you've never played a Souls game before and you look at footage of it, it looks so clunky and bad and weird. And I remember just being like, that's just ridiculous. And then Dark Souls came out a couple of years later, and what had happened was Bandai Namco had published Demon's Souls in the UK because Sony wouldn't. And then From Software agreed to make a sort of spiritual successor for Bandai Namco that Sony wouldn't own, which is how Dark Souls came about rather than a Demon's Souls 2. And I got Dark Souls for the Xbox 360 because I'd heard that people really liked it, and I played it, and I was like, what is this game? I'm so confused. And I was just going through it, and I managed to kill the first boss, and it took forever. And I was like, right, okay, so I've done that. And it just felt like the game hated me, like working through the levels and trying to kill the bad guys. And I just kept dying, and I kept losing all my experience points because that happens if you die. And I was like, this game hates me. Why does this game hate me so much? But I pushed through. I defeated the first boss. And then I went down. You go down into the sewers. And was walking along this sewer and I fell in a hole and fell down into a pit that I couldn't escape from easily. And this frog thing breathed smoke on me and it cursed me and killed me. And then when I came back to life, my health was cut in half and I couldn't get all my health back. I was like stuck at half health and there was no clear way to like it was like, you're cursed. And I was like, well, how do I not be cursed anymore? And it was like, I don't know, you're cursed. And I was like, I hate you and I hate this game. And I took it out and I sold it and I hated it. And then when I moved to Japan, actually, and I eventually got a PlayStation 3, I got Dark Souls again then. And I don't know what it was different, but I played it again and suddenly I loved it. And I pushed through and I worked out how to get rid of the curse and stuff like that and played through. And like, the act of finishing that game, like actually completing that game for the first time, was the most rewarding moment I've ever had in a video game because it is such a brutally, crazily difficult game. Like, this is a game where you're plonked in this world, it's this massive open world, but there's no like, it's not open world in the way GTA is. You know, moving from one bit of it to another bit of it is incredibly difficult because any enemy in the game can kill you in about 2 seconds if you're not careful. And there's no fast travel. Like, if you get up to one bit of it and you want to go down to another bit of it, you have to physically walk there. And every time you die, you lose all your experience points. And they land on the floor where you died. And if you don't get back to them before you die again, they're just gone forever. Every time you, like, all the enemies come back each time you die as well. And it just is so brutally difficult. And it never explains anything to you. It never tells you how to do anything. You just kind of have to work it out on your own. And yeah, like, finishing it felt like I had like genuinely defeated an entity as an entirety that didn't like me, and I had shown it who's boss, and it was brilliant. And since then they've made Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, which I like to varying degrees, and then Bloodborne, which I think is a masterpiece because, like, where Dark Souls takes its inspiration from European fantasy and medieval fantasy, and you can play sort of like a knight fighting dragons and stuff, Bloodborne takes its inspiration from like the works of H.P. Lovecraft and things like that, and it's kind of this gothic horror. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Jesus. That's beautiful.
So, Bloodborne takes its inspiration from the works of H.P. Lovecraft and is this Victorian gothic horror game where you're fighting werewolves and things rather than, you know, dragons, and it's just a different setting, and I love that game. But because Dark Souls kicked it all off, that has to be my number one pick. I absolutely love it. What's your experience? And, you know, we talked earlier about Demon's Souls, which is a remake of that original game that led to it. So I know I love Demon's Souls, but Dark Souls, yeah, that's the first. What's your experience with the Souls series, Dan?
My experience was George said that Bloodborne's a good game, so I bought it. And then I went, what the hell is this game? Much like your first experience, I was like, what the hell do I do? But I didn't sell it. I kept at it, and it is incredibly rewarding. It's just brilliant. It's hard to describe. It's kind of like, I like the pain of dying a million times from this boss, but then you beat them once and you learn their moves and you can predict, he's the sword's above his head for 2 seconds. That means he's going to hit me, so I need to roll to the right. Or those kind of like elements to it. Yeah, just brilliant. And I always feel this hesitation in any of these Soulsborne games when you're exploring the map. You're always like, what's around the next corner? In Demon's Souls, which is very similar, you die in one hit or whatever. Yeah. I always have my shield up because there are enemies hidden around the corner everywhere. Yeah. My favourite game out of the Soulsborne thing is Sekiro, which is like it, but set in Japan, which George didn't like because it's really hard and he needs to get good. But
no, it's because it's rubbish.
Amazing.
Because every enemy is just a guy with a sword. There's no variation to the enemies, to the locations, any of it.
There's a giant snake. There's a headless ape. There's monks. I like it for different reasons, but yeah, I can see why you don't. I can see how you come from Dark Souls and Bloodborne to that, and I see where you come from, mate. But yeah, it's fun and challenging and rewarding. Like when that feeling you get. When I beat Bloodborne, I was like, yes, I'm finally worthy. I've done it. Yes.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like the experience of walking into a boss room for the first time and dying immediately, and then after like half an hour defeating that boss that seemed like this impossible. You know, you walk into a room and there'll be a giant ball made of knives, and you're like, well, how am I meant to fight this knife ball? That's clearly impossible. And then you realise eventually you're like, oh, when it does this, it opens up. It's just, it's great. It's great.
And you collect these things called, like, there's souls in this game, or they're called different things in other games.
Yeah.
And you collect them, Alex. And then when you die, you lose them unless, like, so you collect all your souls and then you die. And you have a point in the game where you can go and press a button and get them all back.
Yeah.
But if you die again before you reach the point before where you died, you lose them forever. So you could spend hours on this game living, collecting all these souls so you can level up your character. And then you walk around a corner and some guy one hit kills you with a sword.
Yeah.
And then you go back and fall off a ledge and you're gone.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable.
It happens really to me in Demon's Souls. I accidentally walked into the Tower Knight boss fight with 5,000 souls acquired. And it killed me, and then on the way back I died, and I just had to put the game down and walk away because I was so annoyed. And like you said, Dan, when it's like walking around with your shield up all the time. Like one of my favourite videos on the internet is I was watching a video on, it's a website called Giant Bomb, of somebody playing through Dark Souls, and there's a bit where they're walking along this like cliff edge, and it's like there's a cliff here, there's a cliff where they are, and then it drops down as well, and they're just on this bit jutting out. And they're walking along, and you almost can't tell, but there's a bit where it goes in slightly, so there's a corner that he can't see behind. And he walks past this corner, and this big skeleton just kicks him off this ledge and kills him. And there's just no way of him knowing that was there. And it's so funny. Yeah, it's just such a cruel game. It really does not care about like making the player happy. Yeah, I like it. Alex, what did you make of it from the videos you watched?
Well, I had completely forgotten about this game, and I remember you talking to me about it in Japan after watching the videos, and I was like, yeah, this is such a Jade game. Like the most frustrating game you could possibly find. That's definitely George. And I remember you telling me exactly the same things about like the curse you can lift and you just dying, and it's just like, it's such a frustrating game. I can't believe you can just like lose everything at any point in time. I would just literally destroy the TV. I would destroy everything because I don't know. It just seems really frustrating. But yeah. Good choices, guys.
Thank you.
Good choices.
So yeah, Dan, your number one is, just for prosperity,
The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt.
Good stuff. Strong first choice. So, I'll run down my list from the top, and then you can do yours as well, and then we'll do some honourable mentions. So, my number 5 was Persona 4 Golden, my number 4 was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, number 3 was Hitman 2, number 2 was The Last of Us Part 2, and number 1 was Dark Souls.
My number 5 was Bioshock, my number 4 was Halo 3, my number 3 was Red Dead Redemption 2, my number 2 was The Last of Us 2, or Last of Us Part 2, and my number 1 was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It's quite hard to read that back because there's so many 2 and 3s after the games.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All I've got really is just a handful of games that didn't quite fit on my list. I could go much deeper, but I'll just stick with these. So Bloodborne, which we mentioned a bit, Demon's Souls, they're connected to Dark Souls. Then Final Fantasy 8 and Final Fantasy 7, and basically the whole Final Fantasy series I love. The Resident Evil series, particularly the recent remake of 2. Silent Hill 2 is my favourite horror game of all time. I love Silent Hill 2. A game called Return of the Obra Dinn. Then the whole Metal Gear Solid series, I've got, I love those. And then very recently, I think it is a masterpiece. And in any other year, it would be my favourite game of the year if it wasn't for The Last of Us Part 2. Hades is a masterpiece. And a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, Dan, in terms of Dark Souls being rewarding, those same things are rewarding about Hades. So it's a masterpiece. It's 10 out of 10, perfect game. That's my honourable mentions.
I'll go through mine quickly. I have a big list, but I'll just go through it quickly. So Braid, Fable, Sekiro, Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls before Skyrim, Ori. The Ori games were beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Playing a painting and the music was great. And Hollow Knight, God of War, Final Fantasy 7, the GTA games, Last of Us 1, the Uncharted series, the Metal Gear Solid series, Limbo, Super Meat Boy, Geometry Wars, Batman Arkham Asylum. Marvel Spider-Man, Shadow of Colossus, Persona 5, Resident Evil 4.
Good one.
Buying?
Good choice.
Banjo-Kazooie. That was released on Xbox.
Solid
so
choice.
Set that one in.
Yeah, no, that works.
Mass Effect 2. But there were so many games, like, so many games. But, yeah.
Awesome sauce. Right, well, that brings us to the end, I think. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
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 No homework assignments for this week, but it was a good chat. Thanks for joining us, Dan. I've appreciated it a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Come
I
back.
hope you'll come back soon
please.
to talk about Nintendo games.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
yes, please.
thank you, wonderful listeners, for sticking with us again and choosing us. Next week, I believe, if we've timed this right, will be our big celebration of 2020 episode. 2020, famously the worst year of all time, has had some bright pop culture spots, so we'll be highlighting those next week and having a chat around that, which I'm pretty excited for.
Me too.
So find us on all the usual places on social media. You can find links to all of those in our show notes, along with links to all the stuff we talked about in Culture Catch Up. And join us next week for our best of 2020. And please have a wonderful week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan.